Yogesh ji, will you read?
May I read today?
Not there. हाँ आप पढ़िए मैम.
The Vedantic idea of knowledge does not present the same difficulties. The Gita takes it over at once and completely and throughout the 6 chapters quietly substitutes the still immutable Brahman of the Vedantas, the one without a second, immanent in all cosmos, for the still immutable but multiple Purusha of the Sankhya. It accepts throughout these chapters knowledge and realization of the Brahman as the most important, the indispensable means of liberation, even while it insists on desireless works as an essential part of knowledge. It accepts equally nirvana of the ego in the infinite equality of the immutable, impersonal Brahman as essential to liberation. It practically identifies this extinction with the Sankhya return of the inactive, immutable Purusha upon itself when it emerges out of identification with the actions of Prakriti. It combines and fuses the language of the Vedanta with the language of the Sankhya, as had already indeed been done by certain of the Upanishads. But still there is a defect in the Vedantic position which has to be overcome. We may perhaps conjecture that at this time the Vedanta had not yet redeveloped the later theistic tendencies which in the Upanishads are already present as an element, but not so prominent as in the Vaishnava philosophies of the later Vedantins, where they became indeed not only prominent but paramount. We may take it that the orthodox Vedanta was, at any rate in its main tendencies, pantheistic at the basis, monistic at the summit. It knew of the Brahman, one without a second. It knew of the gods, Vishnu, Shiva, Brahma, and the rest, who all resolved themselves into the Brahman, but the one supreme Brahman as the one Ishvara, Purusha, Deva. Words often applied to it in the Upanishads and justifying to the extent, yet passing beyond the Sankhya and the theistic conception, was an idea that had fallen from its pride of place. The names could only be applied in a strictly logical Brahmavad to subordinate or inferior phases of the Brahman idea. The Gita proposes not only to restore the original equality of these names and therefore of the conceptions they indicate, but to go a step farther. The Brahman in its supreme and not in any lower aspect has to be presented as the Purusha, with the lower Prakriti for its Maya, so to synthesize thoroughly Vedanta and Sankhya, and as Ishvara, so to synthesize thoroughly both with Yoga. But the Gita is going to represent the Ishvara Purushottama as higher even than the still and immutable Brahman, and the loss of ego in the impersonal comes in at the beginning as only a great initial and necessary step towards union with the Purushottama. For the Purushottama is the supreme Brahman. It therefore passes boldly beyond the Veda and the Upanishads as they were taught by their best authorized exponents and affirms a teaching of its own which it has developed from them, but which may not be capable of being fitted in within the four corners of their meaning as ordinarily interpreted by the Vedantins. In fact, without this free and synthetic dealing with the letter of the scripture, a work of large synthesis in the then state of conflict between numerous schools and with the current methods of Vedic exegesis would have been impossible.
Right. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Arora ji has joined. One second, I'm just seeing whether we should read the next para also. No, we'll go one by one. इसमें कुछ footnotes भी थे. I forgot to show at that time. While reading the text, I will show them. So basically, in the previous paragraph, he was still covering the works aspect, relating it to the Vedavada, to the Rigveda Samhita, and essentially the idea of sacrifice, doing yagya, which later on, I mean, at least by the time of the Gita, came to be looked upon mostly as karma kanda. है ना? So that idea of yagya, yajna rather, proper pronunciation, that the Gita synthesizes beautifully with its own idea of yoga, the inclusive yoga, by saying that your whole life should be a sacrifice to the Supreme. Several shlokas for this, like 3.9, yajnarthat karmano anyatra loko ayam karma bandhanaha tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangaha samachara. That for the sake of yajna, whatever karma is not done, that karma becomes a source of bondage. Therefore, for the sake of that, for the sake of yajna, you should offer your karma. Similarly, this is 3.9, then I think 9.27, yat karoshi, yadashnasi, yat juhoshi, dadasi, yat. Whatever you do it as an offering to the Supreme, like that. And plus, just for the sacrifice itself, the idea of sacrifice, yajna, other than the third chapter, in the fourth chapter, from verses 24 to verse number 33, it mentions the different kinds of yajnas, though that is in its proper sense yet to come in the book that we are reading. But since I had mentioned those, so yeah, basically, we had synthesized the idea of yajna with the Gita's idea of a complete yoga. Even the words yoga and yajna, if we see the root, so yajna goes back to the root yaj, and the yoga goes back to the root yuj. And again, if you see their formation, so simply after the yakara, there is an akara in the yaj root and an ukara in the yuj root. So even in their origin, they have basically branched from the same original sound, sort of, right? So that being said, now what is left is, so basically he has covered the Vedic idea of works. Okay, the Vedic idea of works, yeah, that he has covered and synthesized, shown basically how the Gita synthesizes that, the Vedic idea of works and the Vedic idea of sacrifice, karma kanda, etc. Why the Gita denounces it, that it is simply going to keep you trapped in the action of the three gunas, etc. In this paragraph, he is going to synthesize. He has done that. He's been doing this kind of synthesis throughout this chapter. We have been, sort of in this chapter for almost 2 months now. But basically, in this paragraph, before closing with the summary, he will synthesize the Vedantic idea of knowledge and the Brahmavada idea with the idea of the Purushottama in the Gita. That is like, the summary of it. So that is why, in comparison to the Vedic idea of works, that is how the first sentence should be read. The Vedantic idea of knowledge does not present the same difficulties. Yeah. The Vedic idea of knowledge, the Vedic idea of works, hai karma kanda, yajna, etc. Why it presents the difficulties? Because why, you are doing it for the sake of desire. You are doing it for material enjoyment in this world, and you're doing it for enjoyment in other worlds. वही जो दो श्लोक बार बार आ रहे थे, याम इमाम पुष्पिताम वाचम प्रवदन्त्य विपश्चितः वेदवादरताः पार्था नान्यदस्ति इति वादिनः कामात्मानः स्वर्गपरा. So kamatmanah means souls of desire. And whereas what does the Gita say? Desire is your enemy. Jahi Shatrum Mahabaho Kamarupam Durasadam. So that idea was not so easy to synthesize. Whereas the comparative idea in that sense, or the Vedantic idea of knowledge, the idea of Brahman, because it is far more subtler that way. It leads to a liberation, it leads to that stability of the consciousness in the immutable. that is why it is easier to, it does not present the same difficulties, right? The Gita takes it over at once. The Vedantic idea of knowledge takes it over at once and completely and throughout the 6 chapters. This is one of the, you could say, from the point of view of the action of the Gita, how it works out its synthesis. This is, in that sense, one of the most important sentences of this book. Okay, one of the most revealing also in that sense. I can't listen properly. Is it with me only? Can everybody else listen to me clearly?
Yeah, very clearly.
Yes, we can.
Kalpana Ben, something is wrong on your end, I guess. Everybody else can listen clearly. Okay, 1 second.
अनमोल भाई, जो हमने पिछले चैप्टर में
I
पढ़ा
can't listen you properly, please.
Kalpana Ben, I am quite audible to everybody else. Please check your speaker or earphone.
Yeah. I will, but I have tried, but I can't listen properly. Let me try once more.
प्लीज ओके. हाँ, धवल भाई आप कुछ कह रहे थे?
नहीं, अब तक जो इसके पहले के चैप्टर में था,
हाँ.
वहाँ श्री अरबिंदो ने सांख्य को आगे लेके मल्टीपल
सांख्य और योगा को सिंथेसाइज किया था.
हाँ, डबल पुरुषा एंड देन ग्रेजुअली टू द ट्रिपल स्टेटस ऑफ द पुरुषा इन द गीता. तो वो सिंथेसिस हो गया. तो
वो सांख्य वाला था ना?
हाँ, पर यहाँ पर भी अच्छा वो सांख्य वाला था, ये ब्रह्मवाद वाला है.
ये ब्रह्मवाद वाला है, ये वेदांत वाला है.
ये वेदांत वाला सिंथेसिस है.
और प्लस वेदांत के साथ साथ उन्होंने जो वेद संहिता है, जो पहला सिंथेसिस है, उसको भी उन्होंने इसमें सिंथेसाइज कर दिया है. सांख्य वाला जो हमने देखा था, सांख्य वाले में कर्मकांड वगैरह को या यज्ञ का जो आइडिया है, उसको हमने गीता के आइडिया के साथ सिंथेसाइज नहीं किया था ना.
सांख्य में तो कहाँ यज्ञ का आइडिया
नहीं किया ना, वही तो कह रहा हूँ. तो वो भी इसमें किया है गीता ने, इस
पर
चैप्टर में.
सांख्य में तो कभी था भी नहीं ना. सांख्य
नहीं
was
था
only
वो, मैं नहीं कह रहा हूँ, बट इस चैप्टर में क्या फ्रेश एडिशन हुआ है अदर देन रिकनसाइलिंग सांख्य एंड योगा, मैं वो बता रहा हूँ आपको.
हाँ. ओके, बेसिकली एंगल ऑफ ब्रह्मवादा इज हियर मेनली.
या करेक्ट.
ओके.
So the Gita takes it over at once and completely. Takes what over? The Vedantic idea of knowledge and basically the idea of Brahman. ठीक है? And throughout the 6 chapters, quietly substitutes, इसको मार्क कर लें, quietly substitutes the still immutable Brahman of the Vedantins. ठीक है? वो ब्रह्मन कैसा है वेदांतियों का? स्टिल है, अचलम और इम्यूटेबल, अक्षरम है. ठीक है? दैट अचलम अक्षरम ब्रह्मन ऑफ द वेदांतिट्स, इट सब्स्टिट्यूट्स क्वाइटली. और वो क्या है ब्रह्मन? द वन विदाउट अ सेकेंड, इमनेंट इन ऑल कॉस्मोस. एकमेव द्वितीयम ब्रह्म. दिस इज द वेदांतिक फॉर्मूला. ये बृहदारण्यक उपनिषद में आता है. देयर इज ब्रह्मन अलोन, द वन विदाउट अ सेकेंड. मतलब there is no other second, there is nobody else, there is Brahman alone. Okay, the one without a second, immanent in all cosmos. Immanent माने वो उसके अंदर है. Immanent means inside. Another sense you could say पिरोया हुआ है उसके अंदर, but that is like more this thing. The one without a second, immanent in all cosmos. This it substitutes for the still, immutable, but multiple Purusha of the Sankhyas. So basically, the Brahman idea, it substitutes with the word, with the Sankhya idea. Okay. How exactly it does it? अगर हम वो exact श्लोक पकड़ पाए, maybe we cannot, because there is no particular shloka in which it is done, because as he is saying, quietly substitutes, almost even there is a sense of humor in this, almost surreptitiously, without being discovered that way. और अगर उसको सेंस को हम नहीं भी इंक्लूड करें, it does it. It quietly substitutes the Brahman idea with the Purusha idea.
इवन सांख्य में भी वो क्लियर नहीं था, वो भी बहुत क्रिप्टिकली किया था पहले चैप्टर में, इसके पहले चैप्टर में.
But basically, yeah, that Brahman idea has been replaced with the difference क्या है? Purusha is multiple, the Brahman is one without a second. Okay, so further on उसको, this Purusha idea, it has to unite into a unity. Okay. Now, I mean, I'm trying to think if any particular verses can be pointed out in which this transition is taking place. But like in the second chapter, वो मतलब it ends with that Brahmi sthiti, Esha Brahmi sthiti Partha. But if we see before that, 2.61 में, it says तानि सर्वाणि संयम्य युक्त आसीत मत्परः. तो matparah जो उसमें है, he is referring to his own person. Person is basically the English word for the word Purusha that way. Though there actually matparaha, properly speaking, is the Purushottama. It is the first reference to the Purushottama, indirect reference in 2.61. But yeah, kind of. You can relate that way कि वो ब्रह्मन आइडिया को पुरुषा आइडिया से उसने सब्स्टिट्यूट करना शुरू कर दिया है. आई मीन आई हैव टू लुक, मतलब देखना पड़ेगा. मैंने पहले भी कई बार ये कोशिश करी है, बट आई हैव नॉट बीन सक्सेसफुल कि एग्जैक्टली वेयर दैट ट्रांजिशन टेक्स प्लेस इन विच वर्सेस. बट दैट डजंट मैटर. आई मीन वी it's not that we are, we should doubt Sri Aurobindo or
श्री
anything.
अरविंद ने कर दिया अपने लिए.
Exactly. If he has written it, I mean, it's obvious. And Purusha word, properly speaking, जब वो बोलेगी क्षरा अक्षरा उत्तमा, for that you have to wait till the 15th chapter. उसके पहले from the 6th के ending, ठीक है, beginning from the 7th, he starts coming into his own and starts showing his glory basically. So that prominence of the personality starts taking, मतलब वो आने लगता है, बाहर उभर के आने लगता है, like that. So yeah, more on this, matlab, if I find those exact verses, I'll share. More important actually is to understand what he's saying in the text here. It accepts throughout these chapters knowledge and realization of the Brahman as the most important, the indispensable means of liberation, even while it insists on desireless works as an essential part of knowledge.
दोनों साथ में करना है.
Knowledge and realization of the Brahman as the most important, the indispensable means of liberation. यहाँ पे
So he is actually
5.24
Anmol bhai here fusing both the things of works, which
and
is
knowledge.
the practice
Works and
and the
knowledge.
knowledge
Yes.
means he's trying to bring the original Vedic unity back here.
Yes, yes. Knowledge and realization of the Brahman as the most important, the indispensable means of liberation. So Esha Brahmi स्थिति वहां से 2.72 में आता है. Then again 5.24 में ब्रह्मभूत योन्तः सुखोन्तरारामः तथांतर ज्योतिरेवयः सयोगी ब्रह्म निर्वाणम ब्रह्मभूतः अधिगच्छति या ब्रह्मभूतोधिगच्छति, if you take the sandhi together, right? So knowledge and realization of the Brahman as the most important, the indispensable means of liberation. The word Brahman basically comes from the root brih. Okay, ब के बाद जो ऋषि वाला वावल है, that री, ब्रिह. Okay, and बृहत basically comes from that, ब्रह्मा comes from that. English का जो word है breadth, BREADH, it comes from the same root originally. Basically it means vastness or wideness. That is the beauty ना of Sanskrit etymology. आपको सारी भाषाओं का अंतरतम चीज आपको पता चलने लगता है if you start getting a hang of Sanskrit etymology, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so breadth, near to the far करके, तो wideness. And what एक जो हमने पहले भी सूत्र बोला था वेदांत का, सॉरी, सत्यम ज्ञानम अनंतम ब्रह्म. Until that infinity of the Brahman is attained, liberation is not. Liberation का मतलब ही है the consciousness of infinity. It is only in infinity that true liberation can be attained.
वही ब्राह्मी स्थिति जो 2.70
ब्राह्मी स्थिति, वही मैं infinity, wideness, breadth, उस आइडियाज को मैं रिलेट करने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ. लिबरेशन वगैरह, एनीथिंग विच लिमिट्स यू, दैट इज रिस्ट्रिक्टिव एंड देयरफॉर टू दैट एक्सटेंट अगेंस्ट योर लिबरेशन, दैट वे. ओके, इवन व्हाइल इट इंसिस्ट्स ऑन डिजायरलेस वर्क्स एज एन एसेंशियल पार्ट ऑफ नॉलेज. निष्काम कर्म, डिजायरलेस वर्क्स, वही 2.47. कर्मणि एव अधिकारः ते कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन, not to the fruits thereof. Ma karma phala heturбhuः. Your hetu of the karma should not be the karma phala, desireless works. निष्काम कर्म जिसको बोलते हैं. नियतम कुरु कर्मत्वम कर्म ज्यायो ह्यकर्मणः, ये 3rd chapter में वर्स आएगा. Do thou controlled action, etc. But basically निष्काम कर्म, desireless works. Easy to say. आप कुछ भी करो, first thing one thinks is why should I do it? What am I going to get in it? But then that is where the blockage is. So things are going on, the whole cosmic play is going on. Every entity which is there part of the cosmic play, it is playing its role. Similarly, you have to play your role. Basically, you have to play your role. वो steps begin, जो 3 steps of karma yoga हैं that we have discussed several times. First is in which you are doing the works as the doer, but giving up the right to the fruits of the action. Second is where you feel that you are not the doer. And third is where you feel that the Shakti is doing everything through you. In the second step, you feel that it is the Prakriti, the Traigunyamai Prakriti, which is doing everything, and you are not doing everything. Things are just happening in the Prakriti, like that, right? So even while it insists on desireless works as an essential part of knowledge. तो 2 चीजें यहाँ पे बोली. एक तो the realization of the Brahman, the knowledge and realization of the Brahman as the essential thing, as the most important, the indispensable means of liberation. बिना ब्रह्म की प्राप्ति के आपको लिबरेशन नहीं मिल सकता. ठीक है. एंड निष्काम कर्म हैज टू बी अ पार्ट ऑफ दैट, सो दैट one's own contribution to the cosmic cycle that way, जो वो एवं प्रवर्तितम चक्रम नानुवर्तयति हया अघायुरिंद्रिया रामो मोघम पार्थ सजीवति. One who does not contribute his bit to the continuation of the cosmic cycle, he has lived in vain. He is a अघायुरिंद्रिया राम मोघम पार्थ सजीवति. Basically, he has lived in a vain and deluded way, like that. The Gita says very strongly in the 3rd chapter. Okay? So far clear? It accepts equally nirvana of the ego. 5.24 ka, the word Brahma Nirvanam. Again, just to re-emphasize, the word nirvana means extinction. In the true sense of the word, nirvana cannot happen. Why? Because who we are, Mamaivamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhutaha Sanatanaha. We are an eternal portion of the eternal. If we are eternal, how can we ever become extinct? It is as simple as that. Childishly simple. So the nirvana is of the ego. That is why the Gita does not mention of laya. It does not speak of the laya of the individual being in the Purushottama. It speaks of the dwelling of the individual in the Purushottama. Nivasishyasi mayeva in the 12th chapter. Right? ये आगे जाके in this book only, Essays on the Gita, page number 445, when Sri Aurobindo 15.7, he explains that shloka, therein he says this, that the Gita does not emphasize on laya. Okay? But wo jab aayega tab aayega. So it accepts equally nirvana of the ego. Nirvana has to happen, but nirvana of the ego. In integral yoga terminology, the ego has to be completely replaced by the psychic being, the divine individual, the true individual. Okay? The child of the divine, the bhakta, the son of God. ये सारे जो हमने attributes पढ़े थे psychic being के, the natural attitude of the psychic being is to feel itself the child, the son of God, the bhakta. Right? So the ego has to be replaced by these characteristics. That in us which feels itself the bhakta of the divine. So be motivated by the bhakta within you instead of the ego within you. Be motivated by that sense that I am the son of God. Be motivated by that inner child, which is forever a child. What is God after all? An eternal child playing an eternal game in an eternal garden. One of the aphorisms of Sri Aurobindo. Very, very important. Day to day, moment to moment में practice में psychology में how to replace. कह तो दिया कि replace the ego by the psychic being. How to distinguish that this is the psychic being. ईगो के अंदर उसके अंदर एक बनावट रहती है. In the psychic being, everything is spontaneous, right? It's a very seamless outflowing of the divine energy, like that. Okay? Yeah. So it accepts equally nirvana of the ego in the infinite equality of the immutable. The nirvana of the ego in the infinite equality of the immutable, impersonal Brahman, as essential to liberation. So all these ideas basically, the acceptance of the knowledge and realization of the Brahman, the teaching of Nishkama Karma is something a little particular to the Gita. Other scriptures may you don't find it so strongly insisted as it is done in the Gita. Okay? Nirvana of the ego in the infinite equality of the immutable impersonal, it practically identifies this extinction of the ego with the Sankhya return of the inactive immutable Purusha upon itself when it emerges out of identification with the actions of Prakriti. यहाँ पे इन्होंने
कर दिया,
जोड़ दिया ना. It practically identifies this extinction with the Sankhya return of the inactive immutable Purusha. ये basically जो Brahman idea है, the extinction of the ego in the impersonal Brahman, that is reconciled or identified with the idea of the Purusha. Okay? Like that.
Though this is not explicitly stated in
Not
the
explicitly
Gita,
stated. Not explicitly.
this Sankhya of original Sankhya is not explicitly stated, but in 2.72 now it's alluding here to 2.72,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
at the end he is
Yes.
replaced it quietly. That's what he means quietly. Okay.
Mhm.
Mm.
It's a masterful book. One of the greatest book ever written. And only a person like Sri Aurobindo in that sense could have surpassed the Gita in certain ways. Yeah, it combines and fuses the language of the Vedanta with the language of the Sankhya. Once more, Vedanta, Sankhya और योगा इनकी लैंग्वेज में मेन वर्ड्स क्या हैं? वेदांत के में अंदर द मेन वर्ड इज ब्रह्मन, ठीक है? सांख्य में द मेन वर्ड इज पुरुष.
Purusha,
द एम ऑफ वेदांता इज ब्रह्मन, द एम ऑफ सांख्य इज पुरुष, एंड द एम ऑफ द योगा सिस्टम इज ईश्वर. ये याद रखना जरूरी है. ये मैं बोलता आ रहा था शुरू से, बट नाउ द एग्जैक्ट वर्ड्स इन श्री अरविंदोज वर्ड्स विल कम in the following few sentences. Okay. Yeah, it combines and fuses the language of the Vedanta with the language of the Sankhya, as had already indeed been done by certain of the Upanishads, especially the Shvetashvatra. So in the Shvetashvatra you find words like मतलब पुरुषा वगैरह उसके अंदर काफी है, even though it is a Vedantic text. Okay. लंबा है, there are almost 70 verses, सारे के सारे तो मुझे याद नहीं है. And but yeah, it's not that difficult to find out. If you simply just Google show me the occurrence of the word Purusha in the Shvetashvatra Upanishad, it will come pretty much first search में आ जाएगा. Okay, yeah, but still there is a defect in the Vedantic position which has to be overcome. We may perhaps conjecture that at this time the Vedanta, what is that defect? That defect is basically वो जो theistic doctrine है, the idea of the Purushottama, the supreme person, etc. वो अभी properly established नहीं हुआ है. That was not done prominently or properly, क्या कहना चाहिए, unambiguously in the Upanishads, in the Brahmavada, in the Vedanta. So that is the defect. Defect word use कर रहे हैं. See his choice of words. Very, very minutely you have to study Sri Aurobindo. Then the true knowledge will come from within.
Error नहीं बोल रहे.
Error नहीं
होता
बोल
तो
रहे. But
हाँ,
still there is
ये
a
defect
defect
बोल रहे.
in the Vedantic position which has to be overcome. Which has to be overcome. All defects are meant to be overcome, right? And defect is nothing. It's just evolution going forward. Evolution is a process in which we are all basically dealing with our defects and becoming more and more perfect. As if उसमें अपने आप को बहुत ज्यादा कोई फ्लैजिलेट करने की जरूरत नहीं है, बहुत ज्यादा अपने आप को इंडल्ज भी करने की जरूरत नहीं है. Have a balanced attitude, right? We may perhaps conjecture that at this time the Vedanta had not yet redeveloped the later theistic tendencies which in the Upanishads are already present as an element. Yeah. So for example, in the Kena Upanishad, जो उसका third chapter है, so you know that invisible beings appear there. उसको वहाँ पे यक्षा बोलते हैं, I think. So Indra is there, Agni is there, and there is a straw. और उनको बोलते हैं वायु को, वायु is there. Sorry, three gods are there. Vayu, Agni, and Indra. And Vayu and Agni take the first shots. So they're not able to blow a straw, a straw of grass. Then the जो invisible entity है Yaksha, that challenges Agni. It is not able to. Then Indra comes and then it stops. So basically that Yaksha over there is nobody else but the divine only. But वो वहाँ पे उतना clearly mentioned नहीं है. Similarly उसके अंदर केना उपनिषद के अंदर जो उमा हेमवती है, there is a character there called the Uma Hemavati, that is nothing but the divine mother. ठीक है, उसको श्री अरविंदो एक्सप्लेन भी करते हैं हेमवती को, कि वो seated at the top. So Himalaya is the peak ना. So she who is seated at the top, उमा वर्ड का मीनिंग वहां पे नहीं बताया, बट हेमवती वर्ड से उन्होंने डिराइव किया है कि she who is seated right at the summit of creation, like that. Anyway, तो that was just to give an example कि theistic वहां पे कहां पे प्रेजेंट है. ईशावास्यमिदं सर्वम, उसमें ईशा वर्ड आता है ईशा उपनिषद के अंदर, like that. Okay?
ये परात्पर वो नहीं हुआ, यही वही हुआ.
परात्पर ही है.
Okay.
We may therefore conjecture that at this time the Vedanta had not yet redeveloped the later theistic tendencies, which in the Upanishads are already present as an element, but not so prominent as in the Vaishnava philosophies of the later Vedantins, where they become indeed not only prominent but paramount. One
ये
second.
क्या? Can you
बता
explain?
रहा हूँ. We may perhaps conjecture that at this time the Vedanta had not yet redeveloped the later theistic tendencies. I guess by the word redeveloped he means that the theistic tendencies were there present before the Vedantic synthesis. जैसे वेदा वगैरह में भी वो आइडिया है ऑफ द सुप्रीम पुरुषा एंड ऑल, बट वो जो वेदांतिक सिंथेसिस था ब्रह्मवाद वगैरह उपनिषद का, उसके अंदर वो सप्रेस हो गया था एंड इट वाज नॉट रीडेवलप्ड. देयर वाज अ गैप एज वी सेड बिटवीन द वैदिक संहिता, वेद सिंथेसिस एंड द वेदांत, द उपनिषद्स, बट जो भी था इट वाज नॉट रीडेवलप्ड बेसिकली. दैट इज व्हाट ही इज सेइंग. ठीक है, बाकी इज वेरी सिंपल टू अंडरस्टैंड. उपनिषद्स में ऑल्सो जो मेजर उपनिषद्स हैं, द 12 मेजर वंस, they don't really speak of any god in particular like that, कि theistic नहीं है वो, कि वो विष्णु को सुप्रीम बोले या शिवा को बोले. In one of the Upanishads, Shiva is mentioned. In the Shvetashvatra, Shiva is mentioned. The word Shiva is there. But Shiva means simply good actually. It is not translated even as Shiva by Sri Aurobindo. I think it is translated as benign or the auspicious one.
yeah.
Yeah, like that. So, but later on, बहुत सारे जो Upanishads हैं, some of them are actually centered on particular deities. कोई विष्णु के ऊपर होगा, कोई शिव के ऊपर होगा, like that. So they are not even considered major. But basically what he's saying, Vaishnava philosophies of the later Vedantins माने जो ये गीता का आइडिया है कि that's Vaishnava. The moment you speak of Vaishnava ideas, immediately you think of Vishnu being regarded as the supreme, and bhakti to Vishnu, devotion towards Vishnu, devotion towards forms of Vishnu like Krishna and Rama, etc. And the whole philosophy is based on that. That is what he means. Vaishnava. आगे के एक second. I need to refer to one sentence in one of the earlier chapters. The divine teacher. If you remember there, he says जो avatarhood का concept है. He says it is most clearly developed in the Vaishnava form of Vedantism. This phrase had come. Vaishnava form of Vedantism. So basically, it is the same thing which he is referring to over here. Okay, so prominent as in the Vaishnava philosophy of the later Vedantins. I think by later Vedantins here and Vaishnava philosophies, he means people like Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, etc., who are all basically Vaishnavas. Not Shankara, that sense. Shankara was a Brahmavadin, but Ramanuja was certainly a Vaishnava. Madhva was a Vaishnava that way. जैसे चैतन्य महाप्रभु उनका अचिंत्य वेदा वेद बोलते हैं. he is also a Vaishnava, he is also a Vedantic philosopher, but he is a pure Vaishnav type that way. तो he refers to that kind of thing. ये थोड़ा वो फास्ट फॉरवर्ड करके चल रहे हैं गीता से, फिर वो 3000 साल बाद की बात करें. दैट्स व्हाई टू कैच द फ्लो ऑफ दिस बुक इज नॉट सो इजी.
इसीलिए मुझे एक क्वेश्चन है, क्योंकि वैष्णव आफ्टर भक्ति ओनली, गीता आफ्टर आई मीन भक्ति
लेटर वेदांतन से उनका मतलब वही है, दीज आचार्यस.
हाँ, तो फिर यहाँ पर ये कैसे, अच्छा, बट नॉट सो
गीता
प्रोमिनेंट.
तब तक ऑलरेडी आ चुकी थी ना. बाय द टाइम दीस पीपल केम, द गीता वाज ऑलरेडी इन एग्जिस्टेंस.
करेक्ट.
इनफैक्ट द भक्ति मूवमेंट that started in South India, they say.
गीता के बाद आया, बराबर. हाँ,
ठीक है, which in the Upanishads are already present as an element, but not so prominent, and so on, where they become indeed not only prominent but paramount. With that idea of the Purushottama, bhakti towards him. Without that bhakti, nothing really has been attained, etc., etc. All these are ideas of the Gita actually. Okay? We may take it that the orthodox Vedanta was at any rate in its main tendencies pantheistic at the basis. Pantheistic means regarding the whole world as full of gods. Pan means all. Okay. The means, theos means God. So all is God means basically it is full of God that way. Full of उसको polytheism बोलते हैं, multiple gods को. Pantheism basically means God is all pervading and God is everywhere. Everything is basically a form of God. Right? Pantheistic at the basis, monistic at the summit. Monistic माने the one God. That idea. ये इसमें एक footnote है. 1 second. The pantheistic formula is that God and the all are one. Theos means God. Greek word है. Pan means all. God and the all are one. संस्कृत में बोलते हैं सर्वम. ईश्वरः सर्वम, अगर ऐसे बोलना चाहे तो. ठीक है. The monistic idea adds to that God or Brahman alone exists. And the cosmos is only an illusory appearance, or else a real but partial manifestation. This is the monistic idea. So pantheistic at the basis, monistic at the summit. Clear?
अनमोल भाई, ये और यहाँ पर वर्ड यूज किया ऑर्थोडॉक्स वेदांता और अर्ली वेदांता सेम बोल सकते हैं हम लोग. ही इज यूजिंग डिफरेंट वर्ड्स.
हाँ. ऑर्थोडॉक्स वेदांता at any rate pantheistic. This basically he is talking about
अर्ली वेदांता, because यहाँ पर लेटर
was बोल रहे हैं ना. No, by orthodox Vedanta here he would mean, I think the Vedanta as practiced at the time when the Gita was written.
Oh.
हाँ, वो तो देखो जो वेदांत जो शंकराचार्य हैं फॉर एग्जाम्पल इज अ वेदांत इन दैट वे तो हिज इंटरप्रिटेशन ऑफ द गीता हैज नॉट लेड टू कर्म योगा इन इंडिया though he himself was a great worker. He shot the length and breadth of the country 3 times in a life of 32 years. But what his philosophy has led to is not karma yoga. It has led to jnana yoga and it has led to mayavada and it has led to the rejection of the world. That way. Why? Because at his base he was a brahmavadi. आप फर्क समझ रहे हो?
नहीं, पर ये सेंटेंस में और आई एम स्टिल
Orthodox means the Vedanta as practiced at the time of the Gita.
ओके ओके एंड नॉट द अर्ली, तो वही अर्ली
अर्ली मतलब क्या? वेदांत गीता के पहले ही तो वेदांत है, उपनिषद गीता के पहले ही तो है.
क्योंकि हियर ही यूजेस बाद में लेटर वेदांत, तो वो शंकराचार्य
Later
वाला हो
Vedanta means later
Shankara-
Vedanta means people like Ramanuja, Madhva, etc.
गया। ओह ओके।
वल्लभाचार्य, निम्बार्काचार्य, चैतन्य महाप्रभु. इसमें द थ्री मेन आर शंकरा, रामानुजा एंड मध्वा. अदर देन दैट जो मतलब वेल नोन नेम्स हैं निम्बार्का, वल्लभ एंड चैतन्य. It knew of the Brahman. One without a second. It mane Orthodox Vedanta. It knew of the Brahman, one without a second. It knew of the gods. Yeah. Because the gods are mentioned in the Rig Veda Samhita. Vishnu, Shiva, Brahma and the rest. The word Vishnu comes in the Rig Veda very clearly. Tad Vishnohu Paramam Padam. That is the highest seat of Vishnu. Okay. Shiva. का श्लोक याद नहीं है, but the word must be there. Brahma and the rest. Yeah. Who all resolve themselves into the Brahman. Who all resolve themselves into the Brahman. But the, अब यहां देखो ध्यान से, but the one supreme Brahman, as the one Ishvara, Purusha, Deva. How he has put the adjective supreme over there. But the one, everything is Brahman, but then there is a supreme poise of the Brahman. Right? Yeah. जिसको गीता में बोलते हैं परम ब्रह्मा. Yeah. But the one supreme Brahman as the one Ishvara, Purusha, Deva. Words often applied to it in the Upanishads. Yeah. ईश्वर का वी नो ईशा उपनिषद में है. पुरुषा का नो वी नो इट इज देयर इन द कठोपनिषद. देवा वर्ड का भी हमने एक रेफरेंस दिया था इसमें, एक मैंने व्हाट्सएप पे डाला था शायद, अभी याद नहीं आ रहा है, बट इट वाज देयर. एको देवः सर्वभूतेषु गूढ़ः, श्वेताश्वतरोपनिषद. एक आई इवन शोन द श्लोका, योगेश ने बोला था दिखाने को, आई हैड शोन इट आल्सो. या वर्ड्स ऑफन अप्लाइड टू इट इन द उपनिषद्स एंड जस्टिफाइंग टू दैट एक्सटेंट. या yet passing beyond the Sankhya and the theistic conceptions. एक second. But the one supreme Brahman as the one Ishvara Purusha Deva. Words often applied to it in the Upanishads and justifying to that extent, yet passing beyond the Sankhya and the theistic conceptions. Yeah, how? Because in the Sankhya, वो जो पुरुषा है उसका कंसेप्शन इट्स नॉट लाइक, मतलब कैसे बोला जाए, इट्स इनकम्प्लीट. उसके अंदर वो ईश्वरत्व वाला एलिमेंट वो नहीं है. सर्टेनली द एलिमेंट ऑफ आनंदा इज लैकिंग इन दैट. एंड इवन इन द जो ये थीस्टिक कंसेप्शंस होते हैं, दे टेंड टू बी अ लिटिल सेक्टेरियन. दे आर नॉट यूनिटरी, दे डू नॉट यूनाइट. In the theistic conceptions, basically theistic conceptions is what leads to the different religions and eventually to the conflict between those religions. Even Vaishnavism and Shaivism for that matter. I mean, in the Renaissance in India wala jo book hai, Foundations of Indian Culture, volume 20, therein Sri Aurobindo says that there have been conflicts between even Shaivism and Vaishnavism in India. Like that. So, yeah, basically those theistic conceptions, in them the idea of the Ishvara Purusha Deva is there, but it is a little sectarian. It is a little divided. That perfect unity is not there. In the idea of the Sankhya also, जो पुरुषा वाला idea है, it is incomplete. That basically, उसमें वो जो बोलते हैं, आपने पहले पिछला वाला chapter if you remember, he says कि the withdrawal of the sanction of the Purusha to the play of Prakriti that withdrawal also sort of happens automatically. So उसका उतना कोई control नहीं है. That ईश्वरत्व element is missing in the Sankhya philosophy. Right? So basically, the idea is there, but it is incomplete. Okay. Yeah. I'll just read the sentence again and then move forward. या इसकी जरूरत नहीं है. नहीं, जरूरत नहीं है. Was an idea that
Anmol bhai,
हाँ.
if you see the concept of the Sankhya, as you said, that it basically says that the control itself is something that happens and there isn't a clarity, but you come into that space where there is only Brahman and this
No, in Sankhya it is
above.
Purusha.
Okay, Purusha. So the space above also refers saying that, look, it bypasses. What it's trying to do is build up an entity which is beyond the Purusha, right? Which is
Yes.
the one
Which is
unifying
beyond the immutable Purusha. Correct.
Correct. And if you go back to the reading that we had done of the central being, because we talked about the psychic being, the psychic entity, and the central being. And the central being presides over the play without entering into
coming
it,
down, huh?
without coming down. So when we look at the central being, which we spent a lot of time to study, and we look at the Purushottama, which is again something which is above and it's controlling and presiding over, because presiding is a word that has been used categorically for the central being.
The central
Are we
being is
right?
nothing. The central being is nothing but a multiple poise of the Purushottama.
Okay. A multiple poise of the Purushottama.
You and I are the central being, and it is that same Purushottama who has become these multiple entities. So the Purushottama has become the central being of Yogesh, the Purushottama has become the central being of Dhaval, and so on and so forth. So it is the central being is nothing but the Purushottama having assumed a poise of multiplicity.
But just one point here. So when we talk about realized souls, when we talk about people like Shri Aurobindo, they are the ones who are actually staying in that awareness of central being. I mean, we are not even a psychic entity. We've not even experienced that state.
We have some feeling of it. See, as I defined the psychic being earlier, the natural attitude of the psychic being is to feel itself the child, the son of God, the bhakta. So obviously there are moments when we feel some bhakti. There are moments when we feel that we are the child of God, son of God, etc. There are several moments,
Correct.
that way where we feel that inner child coming out, that pure joy, etc. We feel. So those are moments of psychic contact. If those moments multiply and become constant, then we are living in the psychic state continuously.
Correct. But the central being, because when we talk about Shri Aurobindo and realized souls, they are experiencing being the central being, right?
They are living in their central being.
Correct. Perfect.
Yeah.
So that is the state of what a human aspiration can. That's the final outcome of what we can aspire to be.
Yes. You have to become that central being, and that central being is without birth and without death. As you rightly said, it does not come down. So वो जो गीता का 2.20 है ना, न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचित् नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः अजो नित्यः शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे. That applies to that psychic, that applies to that central being, and it has to be fully realized. One has to know oneself as the unborn and undying. One has to know oneself as the unborn. If this is not done, the basic thing is not done. Unless and until you realize yourself as the unborn, you will never come out of the cycle of birth and death. This should be absolutely clear to every student of spirituality.
Right. Thanks.
Yeah.
Anmol, what is the meaning of this sentence? The gods Vishnu, Shiva, Brahma, and the rest who resolve themselves into the Brahman. What do you mean by resolve themselves?
Resolves माने कि they unite into the Brahman. Resolve माने उनका एक तरह से उसके अंदर लय हो जाता है. They unite basically. They are said to be emerging from that one Brahman. It is that one Brahman which becomes Shiva, which becomes Vishnu, which becomes Brahma, etc. That is what the word resolves mean.
Sort of a reduction.
Yeah. Essence unka Brahman hai.
Okay.
Somebody else was also saying something. No? Okay. So I'll just read the sentence again. It knew of the Brahman. It mane kya? The orthodox Vedanta. It knew of the Brahman, one without a second. It knew of the gods Vishnu, Shiva, Brahma, and the rest, who all resolve themselves into the Brahman. But the one supreme Brahman, Param Brahma. Okay. But the one supreme Brahman as the one Ishvara, Purusha, Deva, words often applied to it in the Upanishads and justifying to that extent, yet passing beyond the Sankhya and the theistic conceptions, was an idea that had fallen from its pride of place. Footnote, 1 second. Was an idea that had fallen from its pride of place. This is a little doubtful, but we may say at least that there was a strong tendency in that direction, of which Shankara's philosophy was the last culmination. So Sri Aurobindo himself is not completely sure how much that idea of Ishvara Deva Purusha had fallen from its pride of place, but as he's saying here, there was a strong tendency in that direction, which is obvious. Shankara is preceded by Buddhism, and in Buddhism the idea of God is not there at all. वो नास्तिक religion बोलते हैं इसीलिए उसको. The God is not there in Buddhism. They speak only of the permanent. At least they don't call him God. वो अलग बात है कि Buddhists also they are worshipping so many gods now. You know, Buddha के statues, Bodhisattva के, Tara goddess होती है Tibetan Buddhism में. That is another story because of the influence of Hinduism and everything. But as such, the idea of God is not there. So like that. Yeah.
So Sri Aurobindo used to review his own work and then write this footnotes?
That I don't know. That I don't.
Because he himself is as if it's
This
as
I have
if
never
he-
thought actually.
क्योंकि
But
ये
his footnotes are very, very important. Some of the footnotes में जो चीजें लिखी होती है ना, at times you feel they are even more important than the main text.
हाँ, पर ये editorial तो नहीं है, ये तो श्री अरबिंदो
There is
की-
no question of being editorial, sir. The footnote is written by Sri Aurobindo himself.
हाँ, that means he has reviewed it क्योंकि ये इस तरह लिखा है
Maybe see because the Arya text was written earlier, पहले वो magazine form में publish हुआ था, and then 1922 में book form में हुआ है. तो maybe when it was, I don't know, I'll have to cross check with the Arya text. I have it. This I don't know actually. How the footnotes were put on, I don't know. Maybe it's like a postscript thing. He has written the chapter and then he feels like adding something, so he adds a footnote. Or maybe while writing that sentence he forgot and then he typed the footnote in the bottom of the page. I don't know. I don't know the origin of the footnotes. ठीक है? But very good question. मैंने पहले कभी सोचा नहीं. Thank you for asking. The names could only be applied in a strictly logical Brahmavada to subordinate or inferior phases of the Brahman idea. Very simple. जो Brahmavada होता है, strictly logical Brahmavada, in that it's the Brahman idea which is overruling, which is like overarching, and all the other ideas, जो theistic ideas हैं, God का, Shiva, Krishna तो नहीं, Krishna is an addition given by the Gita that way. All these things, they are inferior phases of the Brahman idea. That's why in the strictly logical Brahmavada, Ishvara is inferior to the Brahman. Ishvara is also part of the Maya. There is no Ishvara. In the Brahmavada, there is no Ishvara.
वो तो सब अपना झंडा लेके खड़े रह गए, ऐसा वाला हो गया ये.
Yeah. It's very dry and logical and cutting. And you know, to feel that Ishwaratva, you have to, वो heart के बिना नहीं feel हो सकता. Without that bhakti, that supreme person cannot be felt. The divine cannot be felt. But that bhakti again, as Sri Aurobindo advises, the first step is karma yoga, second step is jnana yoga, third step is bhakti yoga. If you try to do, it's not that वो bhakti से भी start करें कोई problem नहीं है, but one has to understand that element of karma yoga and the element of jnana yoga has to be there before the bhakti can be there in its true sense. Whom are you loving if you don't know him? It's a ignorant kind of love, na, otherwise. And you know, it is that ignorant kind of bhakti which leads to fanaticism in its worst, and you know, it leads to ये सारा crusade होना Christian centuries में 14, 15, 16th century में इस्लाम जो कर रहा है आज की तारीख में, it is you don't think they love that divine? वो करते हैं, but it is so blind. That kind of love or whatever they have, it is, I mean, very, very vital and not best not to even speak about.
Earlier we
Anmol
read
bhai.
about
Yeah.
earlier we read about Vaishnavism and Shaivism, right? Vaishnavism में they consider Vishnu at the top, Shiva they are literally
In
five.
Shakta religion, they considered Shakti at the top. These are the three main religions in India.
हाँ, so the same way Brahmavada में Brahman idea at the top, बाकी
Yeah,
सब
but उसके अंदर
subordinate.
the Brahman idea is not the theistic idea.
हाँ, ये नॉन थीस्टिक में जाता है.
Supremacy का idea जरूर है कि Brahman is the supreme, but Brahman is not regarded as a god that way. It is something
हाँ,
impersonal.
correct. हाँ, so ये difference है बस. Okay, yeah.
और उसमें भी आप वैष्णव शैव और शाक्ता वगैरह, if you Google them, then you will find कि the Google will tell you around 70% of the followers of Hinduism, they are followers of Vaishnavism, around 22% of Shaivism, and फिर उसके बाद 4-5% Shaktiism, etc. हाँ, योगेश जी?
Yeah, Anmol bhai, if you look at the life of Kabir, who was a complete bhakta and total devotion to the one universal Lord. And if you see the 18th chapter, 65th verse that we talk about, where you surrender everything completely, then you look at the dohas of Kabir that flowed in him, which we recite even today. All of them align up with every principle and aspect of the Gita.
Yeah.
So for people who are so completely devoted, the fact, the wisdom of what the Sankhya says of that one ultimate reality, if you listen to the dohas, where he says that, look, it's that one weave which has the whole universe in it, which is the concept of
मयि
Sankhya.
सर्वम इदम
It is
प्रोतम
completely
सूत्रे
in sync,
मणिगणा इव. जो आपने
right?
वीक वर्ड बोला ना, गीता में भी आता है 7.7 में, आई थिंक. ऑल दिस इज वोवन इन मी एज पर्ल्स ऑन अ थ्रेड. मयि सर्वम
Correct.
इदम प्रोतम सूत्रे मणिगणा इव. या.
Right. So the fact is that if you can, I agree that all these three aspects are important, but again, on the 18th chapter, 65th verse says that if you surrender everything to me, which is your actions, which is your
That is in
faculty of
66
Dhyan.
actually, सर्वधर्मान परित्यज्य. Yeah.
Right. So if you look at the 1866, it says that when you completely submit your actions, your mental capability, so the physical, mental, and vital is surrendered to the Lord, then he gives. And there are so many saints of the bhakti age which have taken the path of devotion, but the wisdom of their words
Yes.
shows that they've
Yes.
actually done all the three, and it is
Yes.
completely in sync with chapter 18, 66th verse.
Yes. Absolutely.
So we can take a path of devotion and completely.
Yes. See, practical thing in yoga is, by whatever means, first of all, you have to get an entry into the kingdom of God. By whatever means. Okay. Then you can expand and conquer more territory inside that. But first of all, by any means, you have to get an entry. Shri Aurobindo के भी letter में एक जगह उन्होंने लिखा हुआ है. So it's not that, but this is just to understand that what is the best way to go about it. And anyway, we भक्ति और वो इतना डिविजन है नहीं. This is just we are studying a very, very deeply scholarly book. That's why we are speaking like this and reminding ourselves. And just so that basically the dangers of an exclusive jnana yoga or the dangers of an exclusive karma yoga or the dangers of exclusive bhakti yoga are not there. Just to remind
Completely.
ourselves of that.
True. Thanks.
Welcome. Yeah. So the Brahman, the Gita proposes not only to restore the original equality of these names, Ishvara, Deva, Purusha, etc., and therefore of the conceptions they indicate, but to go a step farther. Very important. A step farther. The Gita proposes not only to restore the original equality of these names, but to go a step farther. The Brahman in its supreme, the same Brahman, that thing which is called Brahman in the Upanishads, okay, the all-swallowing Brahman. वो phrase आया था ना कि that idea of the Brahman उसने बाकी सबको खा गया, निगल गया. That all-swallowing Brahman of the Upanishads, basically. Yeah, the Brahman, that same Brahman in its supreme, highest, and not in any lower aspect, has to be presented as the Purusha. आ गया ना? This is sentence. The Brahman in its supreme and not in any lower aspect has to be presented as the Purusha, with the lower Prakriti for its Maya. So Maya and Brahman are the Vedantic words. Purusha and Prakriti are the Sankhya words. This is how the Gita synthesizes them. Yeah. With the lower Prakriti for its Maya. But the Gita adds a term. Para Prakriti, Apara Prakriti. Similarly, Kshara Purusha, Akshara Purusha, Uttama Purusha. Like that. These adjectives the Gita adds for its synthesis. Okay. Yeah. So to synthesize thoroughly Vedanta and Sankhya, and as Ishvara, ये sentence आ गया ना, and as Ishvara, so to synthesize thoroughly both with yoga. So this is the sentence basically. Brahman is the Brahman wale, in the Vedanta, the main word is Brahman. इस sentence से clear हो जाता है. In the Sankhya, the main word is Purusha, and ये last वाला part है ना, so to, and as Ishvara, so to synthesize thoroughly both with the yoga. And in the yoga system, the aim is Ishvara, right? This is the textual proof of this, which we had been keeping in mind. But the Gita is going to represent the Ishvara. Ishvara is who? A controller. The controller, basically. Supreme controller, highest controller. But the Gita is going to represent the Ishvara, the Purushottama, as higher even than the still and immutable Brahman.
Akshara
Yeah.
Akshara eva cha.
15.17 Yasmad ksharam atitoham aksharaadapi chottamaha. This is the verse, I think. 1 minute. Yeah. 15.17. Nahi. Uttamaha pur. I'll show this. 859. We'll just do this paragraph. Last time करेंगे. Next time करेंगे. 15:17. Yeah. उत्तमः पुरुषस्त्वन्यः परमात्मे क्युदाहृतः यो लोकत्रयम् आविश्य बिभर्त्यव्यय ईश्वरः. First translation. But other than these two माने the mutable Purusha, Kshara, and the immutable Purusha, the Akshara. Other than these two is that highest spirit called the Supreme Self. उसको परमात्मा उदाहृतः, परमात्मा इति उदाहृतः, उसको परमात्मा बोलते हैं. ठीक है. Who enters the three worlds. The three worlds are basically the mental, vital, and physical worlds, and upbears them. Upbear माने उसको उठा के रखना, अपहोल्ड करना. भ्री धातु संस्कृत की, वहां से वर्ड आता है अपबियर, मतलब बियर वर्ड वहां से आता है. बिभर्ती, सी बिभर्ती में दैट इज द सेम रूट, भ्री. ओके. यो लोकत्रयम आविश्य, आविश्य मतलब उनके अंदर एंटर करके, बिभर्ती उनको अपबियर करता है. द इम्पेरिशेबल लॉर्ड, द ईश्वर, अव्यय ईश्वर. अव्यय मीन्स इम्पेरिशेबल, राइट? सो yeah, but the Gita is going to represent the Ishvara Purushottama as higher even than the still and immutable Brahman. Higher के लिए word है उत्तम, उत्तमः पुरुषस्तु अन्यः. Other than these two is this, which is the Uttama Purusha. Uttama means highest. Yeah, Uttara is higher, Uttama is highest. But the Gita is going to present and the loss of ego, in the impersonal comes in at the beginning as only a great initial and necessary step towards union with the Purushottama. Yeah. How it reconciles the loss of ego idea of the Vedanta with its own idea. The loss of ego in the impersonal. Yeah. 12nd के एंड में निर्ममो निरहंकारः सशांतिमधिगच्छति एषा ब्राह्मी स्थितिः पार्थ नयनां प्राप्य विमुह्यति. So it speaks of the nirahankara state in verse number 2.71, right? Second last of the second chapter. The loss of ego in the impersonal comes in at the beginning in the second chapter.
Second chapter,
as only a great initial and necessary step, mind. Yeah, necessary step towards union with the Purushottama. Towards union with the Purushottama. The union of the, see, if the ego is removed, what is the word here? The loss of ego. So if the ego is lost completely, what is left? What is left is the divine Ansha, the Jiva, which is Sanatana, etc., Divya. So it is that Ansha which feels the union with the Purushottama through bhakti. Yeah. And it is only like which can know like. This is one of the most simple things taught by the mother, but one of the most profound. If you want to know something, you have to become that thing. Only like can know like. And because that psychic being, because that, जिसको गीता में जीवा बोलते हैं, ममैवांशो जीव लोके जीव भूता सनातनः, because it is coming from that Purushottama and it is already one in consciousness with it. So by the basically loss of the ego, nirvana of the ego, etc., when that comes forward fully, then through that psychic being, one can experience union with the Purushottama. That is what he's saying here. Yeah. For the Purushottama is the Supreme Brahman, basically. यहाँ पे जो thing to be noted is the adjective Supreme. Brahman is that same Brahman. But now the adjective which is Param Brahma. अर्जुन भी जब भगवान की स्तुति करना शुरू करता है, sort of in the 10th chapter, first thing what he says is Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan, 10.12. First thing which he calls him is Param Brahma. Even this might be a conscious choice, not just for the sake of meter. I don't know. Param Dhama, Param Brahma bolta tab bhi meter wahi rehta. But why does he say Param Brahma? Maybe because of this. 10.12 mein. Okay. Anyway, for the Purushottama is the Supreme Brahman. एक इसमें वर्स है 13.23, वो पहले भी रेफर किया था। उपद्रष्टानुमंता च भर्ता भोक्ता भोक्ता महेश्वरः, सॉरी, परमात्मेति चाप्युक्तो देहे अस्मिन् पुरुषः परः। वहां पे पुरुषः परः है, so basically before the word purusha, the word para is used to say clearly that this is the supreme purusha and it is dwelling within you. उपद्रष्टानुमंता च भर्ता भोक्ता महेश्वरः परमात्मेति चाप्युक्तो देहे अस्मिन्। देहे अस्मिन् हिंदी में ट्रांसलेट करेंगे इस देह में, इस देह में, देहे अस्मिन् पुरुषः परः। इन दिस बॉडी इज द वेरी सुप्रीम, इट्स नॉट अ नॉर्मल थिंग टू रियलाइज। मतलब इफ वन एक बार मेंटली भी रियलाइज हो जाए ना, इवन पार्शियल मेंटल रियलाइजेशन ऑफ दिस कैन बी अ ग्रेट लिबरेशन, कि द वेरी सुप्रीम, he who is beyond everything and beyond whom there is nothing, he who is the highest controller and the source of all creation and the controller and everything, जिसके अंदर से सारा कुछ निकला है, वो मेरे अंदर बैठा हुआ है। अरे बाप रे बाप, it can be at least a great boost to the confidence of the person that omnipotence is dwelling within me, omniscience is dwelling within me. This is 13.23. Okay, so I'll just finish this first. Yeah, for the Purushottama, sorry, is the supreme Brahman. हाँ, अब ये एक और important sentence है इस chapter का. It therefore, the Gita therefore passes boldly beyond the Veda and the Upanishads as they were taught by their best authorized exponents, and affirms a teaching of its own which it has developed from them, but which may not be capable of being fitted in with the four corners of their meaning as ordinarily interpreted by the Vedantins. One second. Well, we'll just look at the earlier part of the sentence. It therefore passes boldly beyond the Veda and the Upanishads. Very important. Every avatar, every new synthesis does this. Sri Aurobindo has done the same thing with the Gita. So he has taken the Gita as his basis. Mother says it very clearly. The Gita is the basis. But he has gone boldly beyond it by adding the idea of the supramental consciousness, by adding the idea of the transformation of matter. I mean, there are some ideas in the integral yoga which are, they are not there in the Gita. And he says that merely the Gita is not sufficient if you want to have a full idea of what I want to say. So yeah, same thing he has done.
He has also
Passes.
synthesized Tantra, right? So
Yeah,
there,
he synthesized it.
how does he, what does he unify? Tantra का क्या part?
Shakti.
Shakti
Mother.
aspect he has, mother
Mother.
he has, अच्छा, he has okay.
Shakti mein, sorry, Tantra mein it is the feminine which is the supreme, na? So
हाँ.
he has merged the two.
Hmm.
He has merged the Vedanta and the Tantra that way. Okay, for the Purushottama, it therefore passes boldly beyond the Veda and the Upanishads as they were taught by their best authorized exponents. Yeah. And affirms a teaching of its own. If you want to call the Gita's teaching, what is it? Purushottama Vada, if you want to say. Or Bhagavan Vada, Bhagavat Vada, like that. Which it has developed from them. Purushottama Vada would probably be the best word. But which may not be capable of being fitted in within the four corners of their meaning as ordinarily interpreted by the Vedantins. But if you remain stuck at the Upanishads and if you are unwilling to see what the new light the Gita has brought, then you will not be able to appreciate the teaching of the Gita. That's what he's saying essentially. We'll just see the footnote. What is he saying? In reality, the idea of the Purushottama is already announced in the Upanishads, though in a more scattered form than in the Gita. And as in the Gita, the Supreme Brahman or Supreme Purusha is constantly described as containing in himself the opposition of the Brahman with qualities and without qualities. Nirguno Guni. This I think is there in the Kathopanishad. The opposition jo reconcile hota hai with qualities and without qualities. So these are just aspects. In the Purushottama consciousness, they are perfectly reconciled. When those qualities are withdrawn within him, then he appears as Nirguna. But when those qualities are manifest, he appears as Guni. He is not limited by his qualities. He is not limited by his absence of his manifestation of qualities also. If he wants, he can withdraw like that. He is not one of these things to the exclusion of the other, which seems to our intellect to be its contrary. Yeah. Essentially, you could say Guni wala jo hai, you could say the Kshara Purusha, that which is having these gunas, the play of Prakriti, the Purusha and Prakriti. Nirguno, you could say the Akshara, the immutable.
Akshara, thank
But
you.
he
I
is
was
not,
about to ask.
but
Thank
is
you.
neither the Akshara nor the Akshara. He is beyond these. He is not limited by any of them. Yeah.
So Guni is the Kshara and Nirguno is the Akshara.
Yeah. In himself, the opposition of the Brahman with qualities and without qualities. He is not one of these things to the exclusion of the other. हाँ. To the exclusion of कि वो केवल गुणी है, वो केवल क्षर है, नहीं ऐसा नहीं है. Which seems to our intellect to be its contrary. That is the problem of the intellect. Now, intellect cannot synthesize contraries. The intellect just cannot synthesize contradictions. For the intellect, either it is this or it is that. Therefore, in order to synthesize, you have to go beyond the intellect. इंद्रियाणि पराण्याहुः इंद्रियेभ्यः परं मनः मनसस्तु परा बुद्धिः बुद्धि तक आ गए यो बुद्धेः परतस्तु सः that which is beyond the intellect is he the purusha the soul. So unless basically that soul consciousness is lived in, manifested, etc., the contraries are not resolved, right? In fact, without this free and synthetic dealing with the letter of the scripture, yeah, a work of large synthesis in the dense state of conflict between numerous schools. अब ये मुझे बिल्कुल नहीं पता है कि क्या conflict चल रहा था, what were the numerous schools and all. It looks like Sri Aurobindo is using his Trikal Drishti or his amazing erudition to say this. I don't know, frankly speaking, but we take his word for it. In the then state of conflict between numerous schools and with the current methods, current माने जो उस time चल रहे थे, of Vedic exegesis. Exegesis means X means out. Essentially, that's what the word means. X means out. So exegesis माने bringing out. Expostulation, again same X wala root. Explanation basically, again same X, right? Exegesis, उसको expand करना, again expand. Yeah. Between numerous schools and with the current methods of Vedic exegesis, explanation of the Vedic text basically, bringing out the meaning, showing what it means, would have been impossible. So the Gita does it, the free and synthetic dealing. अब इसमें again, essentially we are studying Sri Aurobindo and we're supposed to have the essays on the Gita can be taken as the foundation and base from where you can start your, some people Gita background wale ya, I mean all Indians have a Gita background indirectly that way, to launch into the integral yoga जो complete knowledge Sri Aurobindo ने दिया है, which is not there in the Gita also. So for that, so essentially what I want to say is, एक तो इसमें जो लिखा है passes boldly, जैसे the Gita passes boldly beyond the Vedas and the Upanishads, similarly Sri Aurobindo passes boldly beyond the Gita. Yeah, he does it. जो इसमें रीबर्थ से मुक्ति का जो आइडिया गीता में it seems to be the highest and all that, Sri Aurobindo does not accept. He says कि just merely seeking for your own individual liberation from rebirth is not sufficient. You should be having the aspiration that everybody should be liberated. And once you are liberated, you should be willing to come back and help others to get liberated also. Like that. वो हमने पहले भी कई बार कवर किया है. So yeah, I am done. Anybody has any question?
Yes, Anmol sir. Just regarding this word Ishvara, as you explained यहाँ पे, it is in the Gita is going to represent the Ishvara, the Purushottama. So as I get is that Gita में and as Sri Aurobindo takes Ishvara is Purushottama.
Yes.
But I think if you refer to the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, there Ishvara, they say something like Ishvara Pranidhanam. So, wo Ishvara is this Purushottam or the impersonal Brahman of yogis? Wo Ishvara kaun sa? Same hai?
Ishvara Pranidhana, correct. I can't say it should be the same. मतलब Ishvara basically means, अगर आप इसमें roots में जाएं, the word Ish means Lord, okay? उसको उल्टा करें, Anisha means not Lord, Vara means the highest. So literally Ishvara means the highest Lord or the highest controller. So Purushottama mein the idea, the word literally means the supreme person. Okay. Now that person may not necessarily be a controller also, but the moment you say the word person, there arises the possibility of having relations with that person. Relations of fatherhood, motherhood, friend, etc., etc.
Personal God.
If you just think of the word Ishvara controller, तो उसके साथ तो केवल एक master और slave वाला relation हो सकता है. No other relation can be there that way. But pinpoint answer, I'm sorry, I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm also confused. जब मैंने ये देखा तो I related कि दोनों में यूज होता है, कौन सा है?
I think that the Yoga Sutras are written much later.
बहुत
और
लेट.
हाँ, much later. So होना तो सेम ही चाहिए actually. It should be at least, see, okay, at least you can say to yourself without any doubt कि the idea of Ishvara in the Yoga Sutra and the idea of Shri Bhagwan और पुरुषोत्तम in the Gita वो unrelated तो definitely नहीं है.
नहीं हो
डेफिनेटली अनरिलेटेड नहीं है,
सकता.
बट वेदर दे आर मीनिंग द एग्जैक्ट सेम एंटिटी, बिकॉज सी अगेन मैं आपको बताऊं, श्री अरविंदो ने इसमें बोला है ऐसे ऑन द गीता में कि जो पातंजलि के योग सूत्र भी हैं, द एम ऑफ फॉलोइंग दोज योगा सूत्रास इज टू अटेन दैट समाधि. हाँ, उसमें स्टेजेस होती हैं समाधि की. असंप्रज्ञात समाधि होता है, फिर निर्विकल्प समाधि होता है. सो द एम इज एक्चुअली समाधि, एंड आफ्टर दैट समाधि इज अटेन्ड बेसिकली टू ड्रॉप द बॉडी. The idea is not that of continuous karma yoga, loka sangrahartham, sarvabhuta hite rataha. All these ideas are not there.
No,
That is
वो
why,
नहीं.
very clearly, it is an inferior text. There is no doubt in my mind, at least. As far as completeness is concerned, it may be more immediately practical and effective. That is another matter.
No,
But
I
as far
know
as
that.
completeness of ideas is concerned, there is no doubt that the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali are inferior than the Bhagavad Gita.
True.
Yeah. ये आया भी था इसमें एक जगह पे, सिंथेसिस ऑफ योगा में तो क्लियरली बोलते हैं चीज. राइट? एनीबडी एल्स, एनी क्वेश्चन?
Thank you, sir.
वेलकम. ठीक है, देन वी क्लोज विद साइलेंस. ओके.